Welcome to the Vault Studios Fantasy Football Podcast, your one-stop shop for all fantasy football info. Here are your hosts.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the Vault Studio Fantasy Football Podcast. I am your host, Lewis Glover, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Corey Easley, and a very special guest returning. We didn't scare him away the first time. It is Ian Hartitz from Pro Football Focus Fantasy. Corey, Ian, how are you guys doing?
Doing great, guys. Thanks for having me back on. It was good talking in the summer, and now we're talking with some actual football to break down on just a couple of days. So, always a good time to talk some ball, even if we're on opposite sides of the planet.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
For sure. It's great having Ian back on, and, hopefully we don't have to discuss Tampa Bay backfield too much this time.
I think we're going to talk about it just a little bit. I've got a little victory lap to run over you from last week, Corey. So we're definitely gonna.
I can't wait.
We're definitely gonna get into that. We got a loaded show this week. A bunch of stuff to talk about. We're gonna get into some of the stuff that Ian's been churning out every week over there at PFF. But before we get into it, I just wanted to remind everyone that we are brought to you by Breaking Oz Memorabilia. They are bringing you some of the best authentic signed helmets and merchandise in Australia. So head on over to facebook.com/groups/Breaking Oz. Oz is spelled OZ. That's facebook.com/groups/Breaking Oz, and get involved in a Raz, get involved in a break, and get yourself some incredible merchandise. And stay tuned for some pretty awesome announcements from the Vault Studio concerning the opportunity to get your hands on some incredibly legitimate swag. And speaking of swag, I know he loves his running backs with swag. Ian, let's get right into it, man. Let's dive into some of the big issues of the week, some of the news and important notes. I think the biggest thing this week is, Chris Godwin's going to be out for a while, which sucks, right? We drafted him highly. He was a second round pick, sort of going in the top 10 wide receivers before the season started. He's had the concussion. Now he's got the hamstring injury. How do you see this wide receiver group shaking out over the next few weeks?
Yeah, we got Mike Evans now, obviously undisputed number one. He's been putting up some Jordan Howard-esque receiving lines this year. I kind of love it. Week one, he had one catch for 2 yards and a touchdown. Then he went over 100 yards, whatever. And last week, classic, 2 catches, 2 yards, 2 touchdowns. So really been fun there. I think, it's interesting because this whole offseason, Bruce Arians has been talking about the running backs, and and the kind of the consensus takeaway has always been, don't listen to Bruce Arians when he says anything. The guy's a liar when it comes to playing time to the media. And then last week happens, and he's saying, "Oh, we brought Gronk in to be a blocking tight end." Even Gronk comes out and says that. And I bought it all up. I didn't even think twice about this. Well, they pulled a fast one on us because Gronk was more involved than ever last week. Caught 6 to 7 targets for 48 yards, season high snaps, and I think Gronk and OJ Howard, and maybe even we get a little more Cam Bray because he hasn't even been involved. So I think these tight ends are going to take a big step forward again. Obviously, Mike Evans is number one, but the only other guy that maybe could have some sort of relevance here is Scotty Miller. And I know he done it in week 2, which is when everyone was using him without Godwin, but the guy really has been getting a lot of deep threat, fantasy friendly looks through 3 games. I mean, look, Scotty has 13 targets, but Will Fuller has 16, and they have the exact same 224 air yard total. So, I'm not saying Scotty's Will Fuller. Fuller's my guy. I'm not trying to put him down, but I do think Scotty, has an underrated ceiling that we're going to see some boom weeks here sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I definitely think that's possible. Corey, what's your take on this, man?
Well, I was always Evans over Godwin anyway, so this is working out.
You were
for me. So, that being said, I don't think Brady has looked particularly comfortable yet. I think he's still kind of working his way through this whole thing, and I like the Scotty Miller call just because he is the fastest receiver on this team. He's an absolute burner, so I could see him taking a step forward. I think he's probably a sneaky grab if he's still out there in any of your leagues, because I think as this offense steadily gets better going down the road here, it's someone that you probably need to look at for sure.
Yeah, I scooped him up in a couple of places this week. I think after people got burned week 2, some people were pretty hasty and dropped him right away again. So I've definitely picked him up in a few places, and we'll be looking to roll him out in the flex spot until Godwin comes back. And Mike Evans, do we comfortable with that? The volume? Do we think these are sort of anomalies, and he's more in that sort of 8 to 10 target range? Like Bruce Arians said, he was sick that Mike Evans didn't get 10 targets, and there was one of the times when Bruce Arians told the truth. He has this reputation as a fat Pinocchio, but he was on the money about Mike Evans, at least in week 2.
Okay, I don't think I've ever heard anyone call him Fat Pinocchio before, but I guess now he has that reputation because that's hilarious. But yeah, no, I mean, that was a hilarious quote, and yeah, he got 10 targets right after that. Yeah, I mean, no, he's gonna be fine. And honestly, like the fact that him and Brady have shown as good a chemistry as they have near the goal line already is just the icing on the cake of it. So he should have a much higher yardage floor here moving forward without Godwin, and we already know he can score a touchdown. So it really wouldn't be shocking if the season's said and done. Evans is flirting with that 15 touchdown mark. Guy is impossible to cover down there. He ran a fade last week where like his footwork got him like 3 yards separate. Like he didn't even need to use his 6'5", 6'6" frame, whatever he is. He was just that wide open, even though they were at the 1 yard line. So he's so good. And yeah, I mean, I think we're gonna see just more and more bigger days to come. He should be anyone's idea of a top 10, even top 8 receiver moving forward.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's just supremely talented, and then you add the physical gifts on top. He is supremely dominant, and the opportunities have been beamed there from him. And even going all the way back to week 1, he didn't show up in the box score, but if hashtag team watch the tape, you saw Brady was targeting him, and he just was drawing DPI. And was had his wrestle and his entanglements with Lattimore as he is wont to do twice a year. But you're right. Brady has definitely got a bit of a relationship with him established, and that's the guy he's really trusting and going to. Now, Corey, I said we'd talk about it. Let's move on to the backfield here, because after week 2, it was Leonard Fournette. He's the dog. He's got this is his backfield. That's the guy Brady wanted. And then week 3 came around, and Rojo had more of the opportunities. Is this just going to be a week-to-week shit show? Like, what are your thoughts on this?
Oh, me, sorry.
Oh, anyone.
yeah, real quick. Yeah, I mean, look, this is what we've seen last year. It just goes back and forth. Now it's Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette. Last year was Ronald Jones and Peyton Barber. Fournette looked great in week 2, but let's face it, anyone looks good against the Carolina Panthers if you play running back. And Fournette made the most of those opportunities, but Rojo has really looked like the better back in weeks 1 and 3. So I don't think either of them are pulling away anytime soon. And we got LaShawn McCoy just playing the Dari Ogunbowale role where he's getting 20-30% snaps and a handful of targets per game. So the Bucs do lead the league in targets to the running back position right now. I mean, even last week with Shady having those 2 targets, Fournette still found a way to get 2, and Ronald Jones actually had 4. So I mean, these guys aren't useless in fantasy by any stretch, but I just don't think there's enough guaranteed workload at this point to treat them as more than top 20, kind of 8 top 30 options, and there's just kind of like that low ceiling associated with these because we don't even know if we can ever get 20 touches here. So for some reason on DraftKings, Fournette's at 5,600 and Ronald Jones is at 4,700. So I don't know where that whole pricing disparity is coming from, but you know what? Like 7.5 favorites at home. I think this could be a situation where either one of them has a big week, but trying to discern who it's going to be here on Thursday is going to be difficult more times than not.
Right, for sure. Corey, what are you doing with the backfield moving forward? Did you, I already said, I said last week, if you were a donkey and you drafted Fournette and you sort of got bailed out, you missed your window to sell high. That's 2 fuck ups. Now, what are you doing with Fournette moving forward?
Yeah, well, if you have him, I think you just have to hold him and hope that eventually it kind of works out his way. Even like a 60-40 split or something. Or he just gets goal line touches and you're hoping for some touchdowns. So if you have them, you have to hold them. I don't think you can sell them for very much at this point.
Right.
And you're kind of hoping for that, that 8 to 10 touchdowns there towards, moving forward.
Right. Yeah. Just you're really hoping for the touchdown to get something out of your week, I think. All right. Moving on to the Arizona Cardinals and Andy Isabella. Had his breakout last week. Do we think he's done enough to carve out a role moving forward? Will he hold off Christian Kirk when he's healthy? What's your read on this one, Ian?
So the problem with the Isabella game was that his snaps really didn't change much. This is a 4 wide receiver heavy offense, and Keyshawn Johnson was actually the dude that stepped in with the featured role, and he had 7 targets and 71% snaps. Even though Isabella made the most of the opportunities, as he's done over the last 2 years. I mean, when he gets thrown the ball, I mean, good things have consistently happened. The guy looks like a great football player, and the guy is fast as hell. So I think he is worth a bench spot in deeper leagues because at some point this talent needs to win out. I mean, it's kind of the same idea with Mecole Hardman. And, to Isabella's credit, he is kind of like a, middle class man's Mecole Hardman in that they really are like almost wide receiver handcuffs, where as we saw here with Christian Kirk gets hurt, if Fitz or Hopkins got hurt. I mean, that's where Isabella is going to see his, usage increase, and he is good enough and has enough of a, rapport with Kyler Murray to make the most of it. So, Isabella and Mecole are these wide receivers that you're not going to start more weeks than not because you just can't play anyone that's going to be on the field for fewer than half of their offensive snaps. But,
right.
We have seen the ceiling, and, like Cowboys Cedric Wilson, there are a few guys around the league of these number 4 wide receivers that can really pop off if given the opportunity. I do think Isabella is one of them. So, even if Kirk is out this week, he's going to be a little bit of a thin play. But, the second we get that, oh crap, Isabella played 70% snaps last week or something. When he gets that, Justin Jefferson or T. Higgins role increase, Isabella's going to be at the top of any, waiver claim article. So if you got the room, I would love to have him on my bench, but I understand if you can't because with week to week, it's going to be kind of a low ceiling until we see a true workload change. Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. It was good to see him get out there, good to see him score. But yeah, he is the ultimate cliche, better in best ball. That it's just that lazy, shitty take. But like, there's a handful of players that are fit into that category, as you said. The handcuff style wide receiver. You don't necessarily able to predict when that spike in snaps will come. But yeah, Isabella fits into that one. And then the one last guy I wanted to talk about, and I guess it's really not like news and noteworthy, but I'm just like I'm frustrated, and I want to get your take, and then I'll get Corey's take as well. AJ Green is like the opportunities there. I'm throwing money, good money after bad money after good, chasing the opportunity. I'm chasing the air yards. Is he washed? Is based off what you've seen, and I know you watch every game and you go back and review them. Like, is AJ Green just dusted? Is it bad chemistry? What's your takeaway?
Has not been good by any stretch, but I mean, second most air yards in the entire league. I don't think he's like this unusual fantasy asset at the moment. He got locked up by Darius Slay last week, but who hasn't at some point among us? So, what wasn't exactly the easiest bounce back spot for him following that 3 for 13 game. But, it's not like Green's going to lose his job anytime soon. The guy that lost his job is John Ross, and that was why T. Higgins was playing the full-time role. But, I love, 2020 trading camp MVP Auden Tate more than the next guy, like more than almost any guy I know. But I don't think he's, a true threat to stealing any sort of AJ Green's, week to week role. And we're going to see him just have better days. Again, more air yards than anyone other than Calvin Ridley. At some point, even a broke clock is right twice a day. And when you're facing the Jaguars, it might very well be that day in the secondary. I know CJ Henderson had a lot of hype coming out. But, all these rookie cornerbacks, I mean, Jeffrey Okudah included, you can be the next big thing at the position, still not be, someone we should fear in fantasy land their rookie year. So I would keep going back to AJ Green. Well, I have him and Boyd right next to each other this week. And look, no one has taken more dropbacks than Joe Burrow through 3 weeks. I don't think the only situation I can remember truly just fading this sort of volume was like last year with Kalen Ballage and some of those Dolphins running backs. So I don't think AJ Green quite qualifies as someone we need to freak out about just yet. And honestly, you're not going to be able to sell him high right now as it is. So I think you just sit tight and hope that volume turns into something here in the next few weeks. Right.
Corey, what are your thoughts, man? I know you've watched him as well.
Yeah, I was trying to get AJ Green last week, so it'll be easier to try to get him this week. So That's for sure. So I was chasing the air yards and things like that, just the targets, and the amount of work that he gets in that offense is something that has to turn around at some point. So he's got the ability, and hopefully he gets it turned around. I mean, Boyd had a huge game last week; it was ridiculous. But hopefully Green finally gets his turn. I mean, that whole Bengals offense, Joe Mixon included. Please do something.
Something. The opportunity is there. Yeah, it's got to come at some point. Maybe it's this week at the expense of the Jacksonville Jags. Now, we don't usually give out homework assignments on the podcast, but for all of our listeners who play in dynasty leagues, this is your homework before the weekend. Go out and try to trade for AJ Green. Send a future third-round pick. Maybe get kick in another back-end roster guy. But someone is probably despairing over AJ Green, and you can probably get him quite cheap right now. That's something I'd be trying to do. And you might get 2 or 3 usable games out of him for the rest of the season, but they could be humongous games. So I think better days are going to be ahead for AJ Green. All righty, let's move on to a little segment called Fraud or For Real. And Ian, we're going to turn the spotlight on you, and we want to get 2 guys' performances over the first 3 weeks that you're buying into, who are for real, and 2 guys who are fraudulent, guys that you're going, I don't see this sustaining for the rest of the season. That could be good or it could be bad. Either way. So let's start off with 2 guys who you think their performance so far is for real. This is who they are, and for the rest of the season, you expect similar usage and output.
Yeah, I think he kind of burnt dudes last week, but continue to fire up. Cam Newton is anyone's idea of a QB1. The guy is looking fantastic out there, running the ball, getting all those goal line carries. And it was a dud last week, but truly, I mean, going into this year, the idea was, okay, healthy Cam Newton. He's never been anything less than the top 12 quarterback when he's been out there and been able to play all the games. And so, okay, that seemed like the floor, but I wasn't really expecting to see a return to form for like a top 5 fantasy option, but truly, I mean, Cam QB7 after 3 weeks. I think when everything's gonna be said and done, he will, certainly be flirting with that top 5 mark. Arm looks as good as ever. They could have one more like legit top 5 wide receiver. Like, God forbid AB didn't just burn that entire road there. Like, he'd be such a great fit to to help take some pressure off of Edelman. But it is what it is. And then I'll also say, like, kind of the entire Houston Texans offense, I think, is a situation that we should be looking to target, potentially make a trade for here moving forward. I mean, look, they've had just the start of the season from hell here, with the Ravens, Steelers, and Chiefs, and they came out okay, particularly Deshaun Watson, who is averaging, career high adjusted completion percentage this year from PFF. So even though not having Nuke is there, having all those speedy receivers around has been just fine for its efficiency. It's just a matter of can their defense not give up 28 plus points eventually, and I think that will be the case here sooner or later, or at a minimum, the Texans are at least going to keep moving the ball, because up next, I mean, they got the Vikings, the Jaguars twice, Titans, Packers, Browns, Patriots, Lions. And then we're in the week 13. So truly a chance for, David Johnson is playing almost an every down role. Deshaun Watson, who we know is still awesome. And then Will Fuller into a, even almost Sam extent, Brandon Cooks, and even Randall Cobb a little bit is coming on. All these guys are, in a high scoring offense, is one of the league's best quarterbacks under center. I know it's been a bad start, but I will continue to go back to the well with the Houston Texans. Only team in NFL history to start 0-3 and then make the playoffs. And it was the Houston Texans from 2018. So it's not like they haven't been in this position before. And I think Watson's good enough to, enable all these guys around him.
And, slightly easier to get into the playoffs this season as well. So, it's, of the teams that are 0-3 or winless at this stage, you'd have to think that the Houston Texans are the only one with any hope of doing something. Corey, what's your take? I saw your heart leap out of your chest there when Brandon Cook's name was mentioned. Is there anyone else on the Houston offense that you're looking to, invest in moving forward?
Yeah, for sure. I think Deshaun Watson's someone you probably can target now, because he's been, I think, QB 17 so far. So
right,
that's not really what you're looking for. So I think people might be getting a little bit squeamish on him. David Johnson, someone I would pay up for at the moment. Like, he's had, like you said, terrible matchup so far, and I think he's he's in a real nice spot to kind of just roll here the next few weeks. So if you can grab him, maybe for a middling kind of running back on a low end RB2 or a solid RB2 and grab David Johnson, I think you'd get some value out of that as well.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. All right, and what about some frauds? Whose performances are you not buying? You're getting out of that business. Yeah, who are you not liking to sustain what they've done at this point?
Yeah, I would say, all the credit in the world to, just worldwide superstar James Robinson, but I'm not sure if he's going to be a legit top 5 running back moving forward. Only Kamara, Aaron Jones, Zeke, and Dalvin Cook have more fantasy points than James Robinson. I mean, at some point, this new dude needs to drop off a little bit. I'm just getting the same kind of vibes we almost just had with the same exact team with Gardner Minshew last week, where a couple good games, and we're like, all right, great, Gardner, QB1 season. And I think we're kind of having the same thing with James Robinson here. And look, like you're going to keep starting him. I get that. But I just don't think, we truly have this consistent top 10 running back. The Jaguars are likely going to finish with 5 or fewer wins. They are an awful football team. And Minshew makes them fun sometimes. And so is James Robinson. Like, he's not bad out there. But, Chris Thompson's stealing away, almost half those snaps. Robinson had 6 targets anyway last week. But I just think, as we get more and more games, we're going to see, guys like Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs, Austin Eckler, Derrick Henry, they're going to surpass J-Rob. So, all the credit to him for coming out of nowhere, but I just don't quite see that continuing. And then looking at some of the top scoring wide receivers from so far, out of these guys. So Robbie Anderson, I think it's sustainable, but wide receiver 10 after a few weeks, we'll see. It's sustainable to an extent because his average target depth is much lower than we saw in New York. I mean, Gase was really trying to pigeonhole him as that, strictly field stretching talent, and he can do more than that. And they've been using him in the underneath intermediate areas of the field, and you see his average target depth sitting at a lowly, just 9.5 yards per target. So that's good. But at the same time, like when it kind of hurts that, big ceiling we used to have to an extent. So a little bit of a, two-sided coin there. But I think he'll flirt with a top 24 value the rest of the year. But again, just expecting that top 10 level to continue. I'm not quite so sure.
Interesting. Yeah, I like that call, particularly on James Robinson, because unless you've lost maybe Saquon Barkley or Christian McCaffrey, Robinson is, probably a running back 3, running back 4, maybe. No one drafted him. He was a guy you scooped up off the waiver wire. So you could be in a really lucky situation where you've got some riches available at running back. So if you can package up James Robinson and move him for, a similar, quote unquote production value right now, or maybe a guy you expect to move into the top 10 who hasn't quite hit the height you would expect yet. Yeah, that's definitely a move I would make. And then coming on to Robbie Anderson. I mean, he's been performing incredibly well. He exceeded all my expectations. I think he exceeded everyone's expectations. But what does that do for DJ Moore for you? Because we many people have seen the opportunity statistics floating around Twitter, right? DJ Moore has had plenty of opportunity, just the fantasy points haven't come yet. Do you think they're going to come at Anderson's expense, or what's your take on DJ Moore?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, right now it's been Robbie as almost the number 1 over the overall. So if anything, it's gonna be a 1A, 1B situation. We've seen Curtis Samuel's role unfortunately kind of dwindle here in the passing game over the past 2 weeks. I know, man. It's one of these years. They'll get that playmaker the ball a little more often. But I think DJ's prime. He's a prime buy low candidate at the moment. Him and Edelman being the only guys with over 50%. Other teams' air yards is just ridiculous. And, DJ is far too talented to continue to kind of have these sort of duds he's been through. So, rough first 3 weeks, but, still plenty of time for Moore to turn this thing around. And, everything we've seen opportunity-wise is that he's that number 1 dude. And McCaffrey around, is great. And it's going to, show up at some point. I know week 3 wasn't, the potential blow-up we were all thinking of. But I don't know, guys. I think week 4 is going to be the spot where we come back around Monday and we're just saying, oh man, should have gotten DJ Moore while that window is still open, because now it's closed.
And it's closed shut. Yeah, absolutely. Corey, what are your thoughts on Anderson, Moore, and just generally the Panthers pass catching situation?
Yeah, it's tough. It's not pretty. I wasn't a huge DJ Moore guy coming in, so I don't know if I'm going to go grab him. Robbie Anderson has been obviously I think we talked about this last week, how, we probably should have saw this coming, being his former college coach, and, all the writing was on the wall, but it was a little bit too obvious. We were like, nah, I can't, can't be that easy. But yeah, I've been pleasantly surprised by him, and obviously with Samuel now getting some snaps at running back and things like that, and I think it's kind of muddled at this point, because I don't think Teddy is going to have like that high volume passing offense, but at the same time, like, I think DJ Moore is the guy that you want going forward.
Yeah, for sure. It is a shame about Curtis Samuel, and I'm just putting my predictor cap on. It's going to be the preseason in 2025, and Ian's going to be tweeting out, mashup videos of Curtis Samuel and Duke Johnson. Still is. Why are these guys getting featured roles?
I just Googled this. Curtis Samuel will only be 29 years old in 2025. So he's still going to be out there.
There's still time yet. There's still time yet. And maybe we'll see him, hopefully get some snaps at running back, because as I found out last week, he had more college carries in college than he had receptions. So definitely in his wheelhouse to be able to do that. All right. So for those who don't know or haven't seen Ian's work over at PFF, one of the things he does, which is awesome, he also puts a bunch of stuff out on Twitter, is his wide receiver and cornerback matchups, and he gets into a whole bunch of really interesting statistics and takeaways about the premier wide receiver and cornerbacks who are going to be going head to head throughout the week. So we're going into week 4. So, Ian, I was just hoping you'd be able to share with us some of the plus matchups you like, and then maybe some situations where you might be downgrading or even sitting entirely some players who are going up against cornerbacks this week.
Yeah, so I think, in general, I love this article, looking at the matchups every single week, but like, don't sit your studs. I think the matchup is a good thing when you have, wide receiver 16 versus wide receiver 18. If you can really tell out the wide receiver 16 is in a rough spot and wide receiver 18 is in a great spot, okay, then that's maybe a situation we can change it. But, we get these questions sometimes where it's like, Calvin Ridley's facing shadow coverage. Should I run up, this wide receiver 30 instead? And it's like, no, people do not do that. But so one of the things I like looking at is the shadow matchups when a cornerback is projected to travel, sideline to sideline with the wide receiver. Again, even these aren't really grounds for fading someone purely just because only really Stephon Gilmore, Darius Slay, and sometimes Jalen Ramsey. Those are the only 3 corners that will move sideline to sideline and into the slot. So we've seen these situations over the years. I remember one time, Odell Beckham had 0 catches against Josh Norman in shadow coverage, but he had 130 yards because Norman wouldn't follow him into the slot. So a situation where we can't see, guys scheme their receivers open. But anyway, the shadow matchups this week that I think we can almost just upgrade the receiver because of it. DJ Moore versus Patrick Peterson. I'm not saying Peterson's just completely washed at this point, but we've seen him over these last 2 seasons against kind of the, more quick guys like DJ Moore in terms of Terry McLaurin, who had 125 and a touchdown on him. Emmanuel Sanders made his life hell last season. I think Peterson is still fine against, the bigger body types, but someone like DJ Moore that can kind of really force him to, show off the athleticism that, he's felt the need to try to enhance with PEDs a little bit recently. I don't think is, someone to worry about. So love DJ Moore again in this bounce back week, even with that matchup. Robert Woods versus James Bradbury, same sort of thing. And I'm not hating on Bradbury at all. He's been playing good this year, and he's always kind of had the rough end of the stick. I mean, that NFC South, you look at Michael Thomas, Mike Evans, Julio Jones. I mean, what a hellacious schedule he had to deal with week in and week out when he was there. So with that said, though, again, Bradbury is this bigger kind of plus size corner. I think someone like Robert Woods that's, winning more just agility wise, elusiveness, route running could be a situation where he wins that. And plus Woods, I mean, Kupp's their slot receiver, but Woods gets a ton of work inside anyway. So he'll be fine. Some other good, just middling matchups that can go either way. Both guys are talented. Kenny Galladay versus Marshawn Lattimore should be a good one, with Marvin Jones going up against Janoris Jenkins, who is actually trying this year. So it's good to see that again. Adam Thielen versus Bradley Roby. Roby's been he did really well against Tyreek and Hollywood Brown. That dude's playing towards top of his potential, but obviously Thielen can win any spot there. With the Patriots, what they've done in the past against the Chiefs is they have Gilmore shadow Sammy Watkins just one-on-one, take him away, please. And they have Jonathan Jones with safety help go after Tyreek. So, it's been an up and down strategy. Tyreek just roasted this defense the first 2 times he faced them. A little more chill the last 2 times. But again, you're never sitting Tyreek Hill no matter what. He can do anything. And then finally, just one more matchup that I do like is Calvin Ridley versus Jair Alexander. Alexander looks so good some weeks, he's going to be the next big thing at the cornerback position. But in this spot against Calvin Ridley, I don't know if anyone could stop this dude right now. I mean, one of the more ridiculous stats I found in my research this week was that Calvin Ridley, with 550 air yards, has more total air yards than the Jets, Rams, and Saints football teams as a whole. It's just ridiculous the amount of fantasy-friendly opportunities this guy's getting. And last thing I'll say is the only matchup this week I think I would truly downgrade because of the cornerback shadow is Darius Slayton versus Jalen Ramsey. Ramsey hasn't played spectacular this year. Stephon Diggs scored on him last week. We know Michael Gallup, had that very questionable OPI against them week 1. But, as someone that was all over the Giants last week, thinking they could take advantage of that banged up 49ers defense with a little more condensed targets, didn't go that way. And honestly, I just need to see some semblance of competent football and play calling from this team right now. Because, we got some cool stuff behind the scenes. PFF with play action rates and motion and all those things that smart football teams are doing. We like to see from them, and the Giants are just doing absolutely none of that at the moment. So still time to turn it around. We saw the ceiling from Daniel Jones last year. I know they can do it, and Slayton's good, but again, until we see something from this passing game, and it's not an easy matchup by any stretch against the Rams, I'm probably gonna be fading Slayton.
That was absolutely awesome. And perhaps the most shocking piece of information to come out of that is that Joe Judge and Jason Garrett are running one of the most conservative and least creative offenses in football. Who'd have thunk it? I love it. Appreciate you running everyone through that. That's great. And at the risk of getting you to share all of your state secrets with us, Corey was just digging into this before. It's on my reading list to come for the week. But you also, in addition to the wide receivers and cornerbacks, you get into the backfields as well of each team. And
so
Corey,
I had
Corey,
something on that. Yeah, so I read your article. It was awesome. Great insight. I just wanted to ask one question about it. So everyone go ahead and check that out on PFF. Cordarrelle Patterson, he said CP's my guy. So what are you what's the not to have too high expectations, but what do you think might happen in this backfield? I know Montgomery's been playing well. He's been one of my guys. So what do you think CP can do in this offense?
Again, I'm looking at my article right now. My words were, I'd love to sit here and say CP is going to get double-digit touches per game with Cohen out of the picture.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to happen. I think Montgomery is just going to soup up most of those opportunities because, Montgomery, he got this reputation as just this early down plotter because he had a pretty rough, first couple months of last season, but he's fine catching the ball. And honestly, he's looked more like the guy that we thought he was going to be out of college than I think the guy that, again, was, on the field more than not weeks 1 through 12 last year. Right now, among 67 qualified backs, Montgomery is 11th in forced missed tackles, 20th in forced missed tackles per attempt, 17th in, yards after contact per attempt. He's been running good out there. And, even if you dig further beneath the surface and look at guys, who have gained at least 2 yards after contact on a, high percentage of their carries, only Chris Carson and Sony Michel have been, just more efficient than Montgomery in that. So he's been playing well this season. I think Nick Foles is going to lead to more consistent offensive efforts, potentially more scoring upside. And you know what? I really hope I'm wrong on Cordarrelle Patterson. They get him the rock because the dude is, unfortunately, now he has dropped to number 2 all time in the history of the NFL in rushing yards per carry with a minimum of 100 rush attempts. Shout out to ex-Jets, Bills, like Wildcat dude, Brad Smith. He's now the most efficient rusher in NFL history. So unfortunately, I can't keep throwing that stat around, but no, I do think that Patterson, he's going to keep that same, 10, maybe 15 snaps per game role just as a, more or less a gadget. That's the way they want to use him. And Dave Montgomery is going to be, the true bell cow looking at, 80% snaps potentially.
Yeah,
love it. Yeah,
thanks for that. Yeah,
it'd be very cool. It'd be very cool to see CPAC get a run like he did for that short period in New England a couple of years ago. That'd be really cool. Oh, we got a question in the stream here from Gorgoroth, and I guess we're circling quickly back to the wide receiver matchup. I assume Devontae Parker. What are your thoughts on his matchup?
Yeah, it was funny. If you listen to that broadcast last week, like Troy Aikman was making it sound like Parker was like running around on one leg out there. But, he's been playing good this year. He's caught 14 of 17 targets. He's averaging a career high 9.9 yards per target. I mean, okay, I admit, like, he hasn't looked, like the most explosive we've ever seen him, but he's fine. And his snaps have been going the right direction, 37%, 88%, 92% over these 3 weeks. So the Dolphins clearly think he's fine. And yeah, this spot, I had Action Network's Chris Raybon on the PFF Fantasy Football podcast yesterday, and it's funny because as good as Russell Wilson has been this year, he brought this up. Quarterbacks facing the Seahawks have actually thrown for like 300 more yards than Russell Wilson has thrown for this year. So their defense has been awful. They've been winning their games, but they truly are a situation like the Cowboys almost, where as good as the offense is, one of the reasons why we're seeing these fantasy numbers is because the defense is bad enough to keep the offense's foot on the gas pedal the whole time. So now you move Jamal Adams from the equation potentially with that groin injury, and it's truly problematic. And also, Quentin Dunbar, really good outside cornerback. He's got a knee injury. I might keep him out. So again, this was already a secondary that was giving up plenty of production with these guys. Now you're removing them from the equation. Shaquille Griffin's an awesome cornerback in his own right, but the Seahawks never have their corners, follow one-on-one wide receivers. So, Parker, he's going to eat. And I don't mind going back to Preston Williams and Mike Gesicki either. I know last week they only had the one catch and they found the end zone on it, but, expected a little bit bigger performances there. But Fitzpatrick he only threw the ball 20 times last week. And I don't think this is a game where we're going to see the Dolphins up multiple scores against the Seahawks, early in the third quarter. So I think it's just one bad week with it. Gesicki and Preston, I've still had some solid games here to start. And I think this could be just a token Fitzpatrick shootout with someone. I'm a little nervous. And again, I mentioned before, those Gardner Minshew vibes. And I want to be more careful moving forward about projecting, big games from these just overall bad teams. But you know what? Like we've seen Fitzpatrick over these, like even he looked great last week and the week before. Didn't look so great. Still had over 300 yards and 2 touchdowns just in garbage time alone. So, Seahawks, again, league worst marks in receptions with 76 and 1,136 yards already allowed to wide receivers. Just absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, you fire Parker and, fantasy leagues of all shapes and sizes this week.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Corey, did you have anything to add on Parker, the Seahawks?
No, just the fact that I'm betting the Seahawks this weekend. That's all.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's circle back to the backfields. Is it happening? Is it finally time, Ian? Is it Kenyon Drake week?
I thought you were about to talk up Myles Gaskin or something. Yeah, I do think Drake's looking awesome. I'm still treating him as a borderline RB1. Look, it hasn't had the huge weeks yet, but he's one of only 11 backs with at least 15 touches in every game. He's been better than Chase Edmonds, like on the ground. It's not like we have a takeover imminent or anything like that. It's just Kyler Murray is just being spectacular as a rushing threat so far. But a lot of it's been on scrambles. It's not like they're actively scheming the ball away from Drake. I know last week was a spot we were all hoping, would be the breakout, but he didn't find the end zone. But Drake did have his best game of the season, was looking, pretty explosive, getting to the second level. So, mentioned this before, but anyone that plays against the Carolina Panthers, is pretty much just guaranteed to ball out if you play running back. So, they were already the league's worst run defense last year by a good margin. And then you take away Luke Kuechly, unsurprisingly, things didn't get better. So, Drake, at 6,000, 1,000 on DraftKings. I think he's been one of the highest owned players on the main slate. And yeah, I mean, you cannot sit. I mean, look, I wouldn't be sitting Drake in any matchup with this type of workload he has, and at the Panthers. I mean, I better not get any start sit questions with Drake this week. I'm going to be mad if so.
Yeah, or you just need to set up a bot on your Twitter. If there's just reads Drake, you just automatically reply with "Play Kenyon Drake."
Yes,
Play Kenyon
exactly.
Drake. And we alluded to him a little bit earlier when we were talking about AJ Green, but another running back who's just had tons of opportunity. It's not worked out for him yet. Joe Mixon. Is this another 2019 where we're going to see finally a shift in his fantasy performance later on in the season? What's your read on the backfield, the situation with Mixon?
Mixon, Drake, and David Johnson just need to be everyone's kind of top 3 buy low RB candidates right now, because they're all guys that have gotten the volume, if not more than we were hoping for. And we've just gotten a little unlucky with the scoring opportunities at this point. I mean, Mixon is on pace for 315 touches. He is going to find the end zone at some point this season, preferably multiple times. So it's, up and down schedule: Jaguars, Ravens, Colts, Browns, Titans next. It's very annoying because we see Mixon, the things he can do as a receiver. If you remove Giovanni Bernard from the picture, we're looking at a top 5 back. That's not happening, but he's going to continue to be, more weeks than not, I think, moving forward, the borderline RB1 that we've seen for the past 3 seasons. This has always been his role. It's not like that, at least, I mean, we knew the top 5 was in his ceiling, but I mean, I don't know. I wasn't ranking him as that before years. It's kind of what I thought would happen. It's unfortunate the touchdowns haven't been there yet. But, last year, weeks 1 through 3, Mixon had 26.8 PPR points. This year, he has 27.2. So right in line. And I know it's not great to have back-to-back bad starts to the year. So I get that. The offensive line doesn't look good. But, it does look good, Joe Burrow. And I think because of that, we can feel confident about the scoring increasing at some point, even though it hasn't been pretty so far.
Yeah, I agree with that. Corey, I know you're a big Joe Mixon guy. What are you doing? Are you using this opportunity to try and go after him? Because some people are starting to lose the faith out there.
Yeah, for sure. I'll try to grab him a few spots that I don't already have. I think I pretty much have him in 75% of my leagues. But yeah, I'll definitely try to grab him if I can for cheap, and just because of the pure volume and the talent. The talent is undeniable, and that's what I've been arguing this whole time. And I know there's so many people on Twitter that hate Joe Mixon now, so it's a tough battle out there. But yeah, just keep fighting the good fight and waiting for it to turn.
Right. Yeah. I'm with you there. Better days should be ahead for Joe Mixon. We got another question in from Gorgoroth, so we appreciate that. Sticking with the running backs, what are your thoughts on J.K. Dobbins in Dynasty? I mean, I'll throw my 2 cents in there. Like, I think this guy's going to be a top 10 startup pick very sooner rather than later. He could be already. I mean, I don't have dynasty rankings in my head right now, but all things considered, and injuries and age and all this kind of stuff, and we all like the shiny new toys. He's been well on his way to a top a second round startup pick. So, Ian, what's your take on Dobbins in dynasty?
Yeah, the Ravens can get out of Mark Ingram's contract after this season, I would guess. That's the plan. Not that he's been bad, but yeah, I mean, when you got Dobbins looking as good as he is, you would think they're just going to, not feel the need to devote that sort of money to Ingram after this year. He's been fantastic. The thing that I think people are missing, though, like, it's not like Dobbins is just getting benched and like this backfield is having no success otherwise. I mean, I don't know, like, what would Gus Edwards have to do to actually like earn more carries? Because the guy leads the league in yards after contact per attempt. I know, like, no one's banging on the door for Gus Edwards to get more touches, but seriously, I think this guy can go. We got one. Let's go. We got one out there. We got one. But yeah, I mean, I feel like if this guy had like 200 yards, we'd still turn back the next week and be like, RB, 55 or something. So it's one of these. Yeah, again, I mean, Dobbins 7.6 yards per carry, 10.2 yards per target. He's 14th in elusive rating among 65 backs. I mean, all the the metrics match what we've seen him do out there, which is just look like honestly maybe the Ravens' most explosive offensive player other than Lamar Jackson. So unfortunately, when there's hardly any consistent targets going in the backfield, and we got 3 guys splitting. I mean, even Ingram's workload is hardly ingrained like it was last year. He had at least 12 touches in all but 2 games last season. He has not reached that mark yet this year. So he is not even like, the cemented number 1 guy anymore. It's way more of a split committee with him, Dobbins, and Edwards. And, 2 touchdown favorites this week. They're going to score touchdowns, and I'm sure his backfield will be responsible for some of them. It's just a matter of can they make most of those 8 to 12 touches. So I think, if there's a lot of injuries going on, bye weeks are going to be coming up. There's worse people to have than, part-time players in this Ravens high-scoring offense. But there's just, it's just the touch ceiling is limited. I think that 12 to 15 range is looking like a best-case scenario outcome. Dynasty wise, yeah, man, I think 2021, again, if Ingram leaves, I mean, Dobbins going to be a top, 20 pick, worst case, and potential, to rise up in that first round potentially if he has a nice little end of the season. So all the talent's there. As a Columbus, Ohio lifer, I've always loved Dobbins and the things he brings to the table. Not a ton of touches at the moment, but I think that'll change. Worst case by next season.
Awesome. Absolutely love it. So we've talked about a few different names, some guys you think potentially could be in some blow up spots this week. But I got to ask you. We all know and love the helicopter. Who's on the short list at the moment, based on your research? Who are some names that you're stewing over to fire into the chopper for week 4?
Yeah, Chopper has been crashing a lot this year. You
Yeah,
hate
Black
to see that,
Hawk is
everyone.
very much down.
I know it's so sad. I hate it. I would lose all my season-long leagues just to get this damn helicopter off the ground, but it's all good. I'm doing my finalist article this afternoon, so I don't have it zeroed in yet. I will just say, looking at the kind of landscape this week, it's pretty clear that like the real chalky range of running backs is going to be 5,500 to 6,000. You got Drake in there, Montgomery with a role increase, David Johnson, finally a reasonable matchup, Mike Davis, Joe Mixon, just a ton of guys right there. So, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I think at 6,400. I think people are going to be a little bit afraid of that Patriots matchup, even though while their secondary remains good, the front seven's meh. And we've seen Andy Reid and these Chiefs running backs, from Kareem Hunt to Damian Williams, just absolutely roast this Patriots team, out of the backfield. And, the floor is always going to be pretty good when you got Patrick Mahomes under center. So like what I'm seeing out of Clyde and, just even moving up. I mean, Jonathan Taylor at 6,600 looks like he's going to be coming a little bit more under-owned than usual just because there's so much value down there. So, looking at that kind of over the 6,000 range, maybe these guys aren't in as much of a smash spot as the 55 to 6,000 range backs, but I think there's enough talent there and then just touch floor for them to still do their thing. And then wide receiver, we're seeing a couple really good options actually in that range. We're trying to avoid for running back because Will Fuller's coming in as pretty chalky. DJ Moore's coming in as pretty chalky, and we got multiple options right in between them that I think can do some big things. Odell Beckham against the Cowboys secondary that, as bad as the Cowboys secondary has been this year, it should even be worse. They are the league's worst defense they have the highest drop rate against. So no one's been dropping passes more often than they have been against the Cowboys, and yet they've, still just been that bad. So absolutely ridiculous out of Dallas. So not expecting a turnaround, and could be a game that forces Mayfield to throw the ball. Terry McLaurin versus the Ravens. I mean, I had a helicopter crash with Will Fuller against these guys, just hoping that maybe that secondary wouldn't be holding up quite as well without Earl Thomas. Eventually, we kind of saw it come to fruition a little bit more against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Obviously, Dwayne Haskins and Washington aren't quite as capable as Mahomes, as exploited that. But Terry McLaurin, I think is talented enough to still put his numbers up, even if they're losing this game by 30 plus points. And yeah, so I would say, OBJ, I think right now is just kind of my favorite to bump up because he's had that Stephon Diggs role in Cleveland where he's getting, the long targets down the field, and he's looked really good out there. I mean, that double movie put on William Jackson 2 weeks ago is absolutely filthy. He seems much healthier than he was last year. And, he just seems to have his head on straight this year. And, I've always hated the idea that he's had these off the field issues anyway. I mean, it's like him, okay, he's messing around with the kicking net after putting up another 200 yards. Like, all right, chill out, everyone. I mean, who cares?
Right.
I mean, he's never killed anyone. So, calm down with the OBJ off the field stuff. But, he is just – we've seen kind of, the up and down this on the sideline. He seems to be in a good place right now, and I think we could see a really big blow-up coming. This could be the spot for it. If we're going to have the press ownership to go along with that, man, sign me up.
Yeah, I like a lot of those calls, especially the McLaurin one though, because you'd have to think his ownership is just going to be
In the
really
tank,
low.
yeah.
Yeah, it's because everyone just sees that versus the Ravens. Yeah, no, thank you. Not going to be doing that. So I like that call. And yeah, I know Corey is going to be pleased to project or to hear about a potential OBJ blow up game, because he was one
Yeah,
of
for sure.
the
I'm on a
guys as
limb.
well, right?
Yeah, he's one of my guys that, yeah, I said it would finish in the top 10, but they need to pick it up.
Yeah, he might need a couple more, big games,
Blow-up games. Yeah.
blow up games, including this week against the Cowboys. Yeah, I love it. I love it. All right, it is now time for our top sport bet of the week, and for the uninitiated, Ian, what you won't know, but we are supported by a great sports book here, topsport.com.au. And each week I like to pull together a bit of a long shot bet, a parlay situation. And I've been targeting Thursday night football because, getting a little action on the game makes it more palatable, especially when we're watching Brett Rippon-led Broncos against Adam Gase and the New York Jets. My goodness, I don't know what they're broadcasting where you live is like, but they were running on ESPN here. Every commercial break, they were running like Thursday night football, Jets have Bronco. You're like, oh my goodness, you guys just need to do yourselves a favor and stop promoting this game. Maybe just do a rerun of an old classic or something like that. But here's what I've come up with over at topsport.com.au. It's 4 legs. We got Sam Darnold at least 10 rushing yards. We've got Frank Gore at least 16 carries. Now, the reason I've gone for this because the Jets are the most run-heavy team in neutral game situations right now, according to Sharp Football statistics. But this was the stat. This was absolutely crazy. Not really related to Frank Gore, but it just shows you how anemic the Jets have been. They have run 11 plays in a neutral or positive game script situation. 11 plays. That's you can't even get down to opening drive and just stay in a neutral game script situation. That is appalling. But I do think they're just going to, they're going to be stubborn. Adam Gase is running the ball at extremely high rate on second and long. So I think Frank Gore, 16 carries is okay. Melvin Gordon, at least 18 carries. I think with the quarterback situation there, they're going to try to take the ball out of Rippon's hands and run the football, get Melvin Gordon going. And then finally, the fourth leg of this bet is Noah Fant at least 46 yards, and I just think he's going to be a big presence. We've seen him step up with Cortland Sutton out, and the odds here for this multi-bet, folks, if you want to get on it, are paying $11.25, and converting that into the language that Ian speaks is plus 1,025. So the odds are pretty big there, and I don't think any of those legs in themselves are crazy propositions at all. Obviously, the risk comes with folding them into the parlay there. But yeah, any legs there that you think are incredibly suspect, Ian, or have I read that situation potentially okay?
I think you're good. It's hilarious how Gase has insisted on feeding Gore, 15 plus rush attempts in games they're losing by multiple touchdowns, but that's the reality of the situation we're in. So I'm still reeling after losing my Laviska Shenault props from last Thursday night, but we're gonna come back strong this week. But I would throw a few just overs out there. So one trend I found so far, and it's 3-week sample size. I'm not saying this is a sure thing, but so far this has hit on 12 of 15 instances where one of the things I look at, I have an article called the Mismatch Manifesto. I take an offense's EPA, estimated points added per play, and I add that to their defense's estimated points per play allowed. And then so when you get that, you get one number. It's just an easier way of looking at matchups and,
right,
going, 20th versus 16th every time. You get one number. And anyway, yeah, I've had a bunch of success betting on overs when we get a matchup featuring two teams with a positive offensive combined EPA. So pretty much like just situations where both offenses are set up with good matchups with the metrics. And again, 12-3 this year when I'm betting the overs on it. And, even the ones that I've missed have been pretty close. So this week's applicable matchups. Now the game totals are getting higher. We're seeing these, in the kind of the lower mid 50s. I know scoring's been up around the league, but so far, I mean, it's been working. And, these week's applicable matchups, Saints, Lions, Jaguars, Bengals, Vikings, Texans, Seahawks, Dolphins, Browns, Cowboys, Patriots, Chiefs, Bills, Raiders, and Falcons, Packers. So, quite a few to go from there. Absolutely. And, I would, look at, for example, like Jaguars, Bengals has a super low pace. And, some of these where if the line's already moved by 4 points on the over under, maybe don't go chasing that, such as in the Vikings Texans game. But, I do think in general with the league with holding calls down, I think like a huge chunk from last season, we have seen a higher scoring to start. And, I don't particularly expect that to stop in the immediate future. So, keep pounding those overs because as you know, I think Barstool Big Cat likes to say, life is too short to bet the under.
Absolutely. That's all that comes to my head is always Big Cat.
Yeah.
Life's too short. Life's too short to bet the under. It really is. It makes the game so much more fun when you're cheering for points and so much more infuriating when, they decide to go for 3 or the kicker misses the extra point. You're like, oh, the tilt is unreal. But that's awesome. All right. We've got one last segment, and then we're gonna let you get on with your day. We appreciate your time, Ian, coming on the show. And last time you were here, we played a little bit of a preseason fantasy blind date, and I've drawn up another game. I found some more players. We've got 3 weeks of data. We've got 3 weeks of production now, and so we're playing fantasy blind date. I've got 2 running backs. So 2 sets of running backs and 2 sets of wide receivers. I'm going to give you some metrics and let's see who you come out with. All right, so we'll start with the running backs, and Corey, you can jump in here as well, please. Running back A has a 79.1% opportunity share and a 17.8% juke rate. Player B has a 78.2 opportunity share and a 30.5% juke rate. Which running back do you want, A or B?
Okay. People hate broken tackle statistics. Is B Antonio Gibson? Because maybe.
B is not Antonio Gibson.
Okay, I want B though, because the thing about I know you don't get stats for broken tackles, but if the opportunity is equal, I want the guy that's making more plays happen, and I do continue to think it's a sign of the better player. Now, why am I wrong? And who is player A and B?
Well, player B is Joe Mixon.
All right, there we go.
Corey, I've opened one door. Do you want to ride? You want to ride with your guy, Corey, or you want to take a look at player A?
Is player A Singletary?
It's not.
He had a game last week though.
Player A is Miles Sanders.
Okay.
So I mean, either situation, I like Miles Sanders better. My guy, B is Corey's guy. So you've got Joe Mixon in the first door. We went behind. All right, the second grouping of running backs. Running back A has a 17.8% target share, has run 58 routes and caught 96 receiving yards. Player B also has a 17.8% target share, has run 53 routes for 95 yards. Just on their receiving work, are we going behind door A or door B?
I thought one of those was Austin Eckler, but he's ahead of that. Yeah, give me. I think with running backs more and more because we don't see as many check down targets as I think you would think kind of across the league. So you want the guys that even if normally I think we look at routes and we want, guys and routes can be indicative of future targets for sure. But I think running back more so than others, we're just, you can't have situations where guys are getting fed the targets, even like Josh Jacobs, like he's not out there as much towards the end of the year, but they actually are looking for him more often on the first read this season. I will go at running back A.
You're on running back A, Corey?
Yeah, you have to take A. I mean, they're basically the same thing. Just one has just a little bit more routes.
They are. Running back A is Rex Burkhead.
Rex.
Oh no.
Running back B is one Mr. Aaron Jones.
Oh my God! Why would you do this to us, man? Aaron Jones and Burkhead.
I couldn't believe it. I was going through the database that Mr. FF Spaceman has. Check his database out; it's absolutely incredible. But yeah, identical target share, almost run the same number of routes. I couldn't believe it. Clearly, Burkhead's total is inflated by one game there, but I thought that was too good of a landmine to not put in. And so, yeah, congratulations, guys. You're going home with a shiny, used Rex Burkhead.
Oh my God. You know what's funny about that game too? Burkhead had 3 touchdowns, but Sony Michel looked as good as he has over the past 2 seasons. That dude was breaking a ton of tackles. I don't think he's gonna be usable moving forward. I mean, his expected fantasy points weren't high at all. Like he was just kind of ripping off big runs in the middle of the field. Cam's still the goal line back. Burkhead's still getting the targets. It's just New England's just a mess. And it's a good real life mess because they have a bunch of running backs that are playing well. But yeah, no, I'm gonna go on a limb here and say give me Aaron Jones over Rex Burkhead now that I know who they are.
Yeah, bold fantasy take moving forward. All right, I love it. Let's move on to the wide receivers here. So wide receiver A has 27.8% of their team's air yards, and they're averaging 2.3 fantasy points per touch. Wide receiver B has 28% of the team's air yards and is averaging 2.7 fantasy points per touch. Do we want wide receiver A or wide receiver B?
It's a trap.
Yeah, I know it's a trap, but give me wide receiver B.
Feels like a trap.
Wide receiver B is a guy, we talked a little about earlier. It's Robbie Anderson.
Oh no, who's A?
Ooh, that's I'm just going to call you Bill O'Brien from now on because you're also neglecting and discarding DeAndre Hopkins.
Oh my God. Robbie and DeAndre, my goodness. I cannot believe how fast those dudes have taken off. Hopkins is on pace for 170 some receptions.
Crazy. Yeah, he truly is the outlier at wide receiver and just quarterback play. Obviously, Kyler's been great, but he just goes out there and just gobbles up targets from everyone. He's absolutely crazy. All righty. And the final wide receiver on this episode of Fantasy Blind Date, wide receiver A has 2 points. What is that?
2.6.
2.6 yards per route run yards per route run and 74 yards after catch, as well as 4 red zone targets. And wide receiver B is also at 2.6 yards per route run and 61 yards after catch with 0 red zone targets.
I think red zone targets can be overrated. So I'm going to go wide receiver B and tell me why I'm wrong.
Corey? Oh, have you seen it?
I've
seen it. You know what? You didn't fall into the trap this time because you turned down a date with epic slot receiver and rapper Cole Beasley, and instead you're going on a date with the one of the best deep threats in the league, DK Metcalf. So
you say that now though, man, but Beasley might be set up well this week if John Brown is out.
John Brown's is.
So I mean, it's all sounding fine on Thursday. I'm happy to be 1-3 right now, but I think we're gonna turn around on Sunday and be like, how the hell did Cole Beasley outscore DK Metcalf this week? And I'm gonna remember this moment. So
you can hold on to this. I'm gonna find that. I'm gonna shoot a message to the guys at Top Sport and find what odds they're gonna give me for Cole Beasley to have more fantasy points than DK this week. We'll call it the Hartitz special. This has been awesome. We appreciate you taking the time. I know it's early in your neck of the woods. Just letting you know the first day of October is a really good day, so you've got that to look forward to coming up since we are in the future here. Really appreciate you having on. You're welcome back anytime. You've been on twice now. We'll love to have you back. Corey, anything else you wanted to add, man, before we wrap things up here and let Ian get on with his day and grinding out his content?
No, that's for sure. We'll let him go. He had to get up nice and early to join us today. So I really appreciate it, Ian, once again for having you on.
Appreciate you guys. Always good talking ball with the Aussie fam. The two sharpest guys I know in Australia, and I enjoy the good Twitter content as always. So thanks, dudes, and everyone out there. Make sure you check out PFF Fantasy Football Podcast. You can find me on Twitter at iHeartitz, and a bunch of stuff coming pretty much every day of the week. So yeah, dudes, we'll definitely do this again sometime.
Yeah, awesome. And yeah, by the way, the intro to the PFF podcast absolutely slaps. That is a great opening.
Dude,
So, yeah,
I
for sure.
wanted Voodoo Child by Jimi Hendrix, and I was told that was far out of our price range, but we'll take it.
Hey man, it comes in a close second best. It's
Yeah.
great. It's awesome. Ian, thanks so much for joining us, man. You take care, and you have a great day.
Thanks, dudes.
Thanks a lot.
Alrighty. That was awesome, Corey. That was that'll just about do it for the show. Is there anything else you wanted to add before we get on out of here?
No, just as far as streaming defenses, because I had to do that this week. I was kind of looking at the Cowboys was kind of interesting to me, and I know they've been brutal, but they've played some of the toughest offenses. Don't look at me sideways. Their schedule gets a lot easier coming ahead here, and I think especially this week against JA's like,
what?
Especially this week against the Browns. I think they could cause some issues for Baker and company.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this, streaming defenses, DFS defenses. The points don't matter too much. Obviously check your scoring. If points are going to absolutely smash you negative scoring, then maybe don't do that, because we expect some points in this game. But we know Baker Mayfield is good for some turnovers, some questionable decision making at times. Some sacks, some turnovers. Maybe Alden Smith gets up in there and gets a strip sack, forces a fumble, something like that. So they'll be free. They'll be on the wire for sure, and they're probably going to be one of the lower priced defenses on DraftKings, I'm sure. So yeah, it's an interesting one. I won't be
play.
It's a sneaky play. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to be dropping the Tampa Bay defense for them or anything like that. No. But if you do need a defense and you really are hardcore streaming, that's worth a look. I'm just gonna kick it to you. Off the cuff. Is there any quarterbacks you like streaming this week?
Ooh, off the cuff, not Rippin.
Yeah, man.
I'm not playing Rippin.
You're not playing Brett Rippin?
Definitely not. We did talk about like Fitzpatrick's interesting this week,
right,
against Seahawks. I mean, we did bring up Seattle's defense not great. Fitzpatrick has been very serviceable. If he's out there, I would play him.
Yeah, if you're scrambling for a quarterback, or maybe a second quarterback in a super flex 2-quarterback type league, Fitzpatrick, if he's out there, is very much in play. When we talked about it with Ian, that the Seahawks defense is not good. They've given up 8 million yards to wide receivers through 3 weeks. So we like Parker, we like Preston Williams, we like Gesicki. Let's do the flow chart. It all stems from Fitzpatrick, who we know is just going to continue to sling it no matter how many turnovers he has. So yeah, he is a potentially good streaming quarterback and definitely someone who's going to be available. So yeah, I'm for sure with you on that one. And I guess going against the grain a little bit is of your defense call here, but Baker Mayfield is on waiver wires all over the place. He's not
Gross.
A guy.
I'm Baker. I'm so out. I'm so out.
Hey man, he still throws a pretty deep ball, especially on play action, and I think that's going to be certainly occurring against the Cowboys this week. So Baker Mayfield is the guy that I'm willing to stream. We've got a question come up here from Logical Realist on YouTube. We appreciate you watching. We'll handle this before we get out of here. Why is Devontae Freeman inactive? This is news to me. I didn't even realize. Is this what's going on? Got to do a quick Google scramble here. This is Devontae Freeman, Roto World. Let's see what's going on.
Is he inactive this week already?
It'd be an early shout. I mean, he had 5. Yeah, maybe Yahoo has him inactive. That's weird. I don't play any leagues on Yahoo, so maybe that's like a glitch with Yahoo or something. But I haven't seen anything to indicate he might not be out, and certainly nothing on Roto World, and they're usually pretty quick. But if that is the case, that's certainly interesting. I'm not sure why he would be inactive, considering they just signed him. He's healthy. Strange one, but we'll have to take that one offline. And yeah, if you're listening, go and find out. Oh, there we go. ESPN and CBS has him active, according to Logical. I think this could be a mistake from Yahoo.
The Yahoo thing. Yeah,
could just be some glitch that they're gonna fix up. But yeah, no news that I can find on Roto World has popped up about Devontae Freeman. But probably not wanting to play him. Play him anyway if you can avoid it. All right, Corey, let's get out of here, man. This was a great show. Thank you to everyone who tuned in, who watched, who shared. Make sure you subscribe. Follow Corey on Twitter at CMoney52. You can follow myself at FF_Down Under, and you can follow Ian Hartitz at iHartitz on Twitter. Check out all his work at PFF Fantasy. It's just some great stuff. We really appreciate his time, and come and hang out and talk in fantasy football early in the morning. So shout out to Ian once more. But that'll do it, man. I'll catch you next week, and have a great week of fantasy football.
All right, man. Sounds good. See you next week.